Welcome back to Minecraft. Today we're going to be talking about parthenogenesis and the fact that SBS v2.1, the Bloodmoon update, the second time, is now finished. Today we're going to be talking about some of the more technical aspects of the data pack, but this is actually going to be a two-parter. Last time I released this video, it was a 40-minute showcase video, and I do not expect anyone to want to watch that. There was way too much information in way too much time. So for this kind of showcase, I'm going to try and make things a little bit more simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a video here of demonstrating how to use the pack and the kind of things that you can change around and tweak to your own advantage if you are a server operator or if you're the runner of a single player world, for example. And then in the next video, we're going to be going into more detail about some of the specifics of this resource pack and data pack combo, such as the mob abilities that will take place during your Bloodmoon event. Now, to start off with, SBS v2 was the first update for this newer, renewed version of SBS. The main point of this data pack is to basically allow players to configure their day duration. Now, one thing that I have always disliked in Minecraft is sleeping. I find it really frustrating. I think that the sleeping system is really dumb. Obviously, they introduced beds a very long time ago, and when they did, it meant that players now had the option to simply skip every single night as long as they could run inside and get to a bed. Now, that was all a good idea, but unfortunately, what it really turns out in the more recent versions of Minecraft, I'm sure a lot of you will have experienced this same thing, is that you then get faced with a problem. Either you can keep running back to a bed every 10 minutes, you can bring a bed with you and just sleep every 10 minutes, or you can just simply ignore sleeping and get swarmed by phantoms and have to deal with mobs for 10 minutes every 10 minutes. In my opinion, it's not a perfect system. I think it could do with a lot of improvements, but the bottom line is I have now introduced a way to extend the duration of a day so that you only have to sleep every 90 minutes or whatever you kind of specify. It's still not a perfect solution in my eyes, but it's still definitely a better solution than before, because if you are, like, say, underground or in the nether for too long and you come back to the surface, you might have to deal with mobs for a much longer duration of time. Also, if you are in the day and you're building or exploring or whatever else, you won't have to deal with mobs as often because of how long the daytime is. So yeah, it's kind of a solution to that problem in my eyes. You may have seen there the sun is moving extremely slowly in the sky. By default, SBS will extend your daytime duration from 10 minutes to 90 minutes, and you can actually configure that value. So first of all, before we go into the Bloodmoon stuff, I want to show you guys what you can change around in case you aren't familiar with SBS already. So if you go into the chat and type function Scalibur : you'll get given a list of functions based on what data packs you have installed. Now, if you have gameplay tweaks installed, you'll have the settings for those and also for mob converter as well. But we're just going to be focusing on the better sleeping ones for today. So first of all, everyone sleeps is a pretty self-explanatory command. Obviously, SBS is designed to work entirely compatible with multiplayer, and obviously there are a lot of data packs and mods already that work for multiplayer sleep. Now, multiplayer sleep is an interesting one. It's actually rather difficult to get right, you may be surprised to hear, but basically the idea that only one person has to sleep to actually pass the night. Now, SBS has this feature built in by default, so if you are on a multiplayer server, don't worry about getting a data pack such as the one from Vanilla Tweaks or a standalone data pack for multiplayer sleeping. If you have SBS installed, you can simply change the setting for everyone sleeps and just toggle it until it says only one player has to sleep to pass the night. The setting for phantoms is quite self-explanatory as well. SBS overrides the default phantom spawning mechanics by disabling the phantom spawning game rule and actually has its own built-in phantom spawning mechanics. The way that it works in simple terms is that after the first 4 or 5 days of the day-night cycle, you will start to see phantoms in the sky every single night. They will spawn at Y500 and circle around players for a good amount of time, and then will be called down to attack players shortly afterwards. So that's how that works. We also have a function for sleep effects, which is the third and final setting that you can configure, and that is basically what happens when players get to bed early. There is a feature in SBS where if you sleep at a good time, you'll be rewarded with brief absorption and speed once you wake up in the morning, and that is of course a reference to the ability in Breath of the Wild where you can sleep in a comfy bed and get a boost of hearts or everything else. And I'm sure obviously some of you have figured out by now this entire data pack with the Bloodmoon feature is in reference to Breath of the Wild, even though the Bloodmoon is obviously very different in this pack as it is to in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, the other thing that you can do is sort of a manual thing. If you go to scoreboards, players, set, time warp, and scale debug, you can actually configure the value of how long a single day and night cycle actually is. All of the commands that I've just listed out will be actually in the description, so if you guys want to simply scroll down to the description and copy and paste them, you are more than welcome to. Or obviously, if you have the data pack installed, the first 3 functions will autofill. But for this command, scoreboard players set time warp, scale debug is the scoreboard that you're going to be altering. The value of this by default is 9, but you can change it. So if you set the value to 1, it will be the same as vanilla Minecraft, where you have a 10-minute day, 10-minute night. But unfortunately, because of the way this data pack works, the sun will stutter quite badly if you use it on a very low value. So I would recommend using it at value 4 or 5 at very minimum. And that will mean that if you have a value of 4, your entire day-night cycle takes 80 minutes, 40 minutes for a day, and 40 minutes for a night. Really, I would expect to use people on about 6 or higher, because at that point you don't really have the problem of the sun stuttering in the sky. But for me personally, I like the quite round number of 3 hours for the full duration, so it is 9 by default. So yeah, you can configure that value to whatever you want. You can actually make it longer if you want to. If I made it 18, it would mean that the entire day-night cycle took 6 hours, and you can actually just keep increasing that. If you increase the value to 72, an entire day-night cycle will take 24 hours. So you can actually configure it to be real time by setting this value to 72. If you set this value to 72, the sun will not move. It will basically just appear to just be completely still in the sky. It is literally a 24-hour day at that point. So some of you mad lads might want to do that, especially if you've got like a server or something. That would be kind of cool at least. But yeah, so moving on from that, the new features that have been introduced in SBS v2.1, we have a fancy schmancy new Bloodmoon event. So again, I'm not going to be going into too much detail about the mobs and their abilities today, rather just showcasing how the data pack works and letting you know how you can use it to your advantage. So if you want to trigger a Bloodmoon, you can actually do it in one of 2 ways. By default, if this data pack is installed on a survival world, every 30 days there is not every 30. What am I talking about? 1 in 30 days, you will get a blood moon rising. So basically, every single day at noon, a randomizer is run from 1 to 30. If that randomizer lands on the value 6, then the next time a moon rises, it will be blood red, and your mobs will convert into their infernal forms. If you are playing on a more casual server and you want to experience the blood moon with some friends, you can actually force load a blood moon event by basically using a command. And that command, you may have seen it before, is quite simple. You just simply type function, Excalibur, : better sleeping, and you can see here we have the 3 settings that we mentioned before, and we also have 2 new commands called trigger, which are trigger blood moon and trigger blood moon end. Now the blood moon end function is quite specific. It's actually used to end the blood moon correctly, because unfortunately the way that this data pack works, it's quite difficult to keep track of a lot of scoreboard values which do trigger events such as the mobs becoming stronger and things like that. So if it's a blood moon and you just simply do time set 0 to clear the blood moon, it will not work. You have to actually end the blood moon using this function to manually reconfigure all of the settings that would otherwise set themselves back if you allowed the time to tick on, as it would do in a completely cheat-free survival world, basically. So as much as this data pack is designed for use in survival with no commands present, I have introduced these 2 commands because I know people want to try out a blood moon for themselves. So yeah, that's kind of just how it works. So we're going to run a blood moon now. There is a pretty cool new sound effect that I've designed myself, and I'm going to show you guys what happens when we get a blood moon going. But because the darkness in Celeste is very hardcore, I'm going to give myself night vision. So we're going to do effect, give Excalibur night vision, the maximum duration 0, and true. And now we have night vision. Very nice. Okay, so function, Excalibur, better sleeping, and then scroll down to blood moon. Here we go. And there we have it. So, the Bloodmoon skins, they are pretty scary. They're pretty cool. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of features missing from Optifine at the moment, such as emissive and CIT, so we aren't completely finished here, and also the creeper is far away for a reason I'll explain in just a moment and go into more detail in the next video. But basically, these guys should have glowing red eyes or glowing yellow eyes in the case of the husk, but they unfortunately do not, because emissive features are not currently working in Optifine. Optifine has been in development for 1.15.2 for, I think, wait, 2.5 months now? Wait, no, not 2.5 months. God, like 6 months now. Yeah, like almost 6 months it's been in development for. It still doesn't have emissive features, unfortunately, so that's clearly not priority, but never mind. So yeah, we also don't have CIT, so this guy should have a much cooler looking helmet, but he doesn't. The good thing is these features are already implemented, so as soon as Optifine updates all of its stuff for 1.15, these features should start working again, so hopefully we can see those at some point in the future. So yeah, quick rundown of what all these mobs do. Zombies are faster, stronger, and you will find a lot more zombies. Skeletons are also faster, and they have the ability to spawn additional mobs, such as wither skeletons and strays alongside them as well. Spiders are faster and stronger, and they spawn cave spiders alongside them. Husks spawn alongside zombies on a rare chance, and they ignite blocks around them with fire. They also set players on fire when they hit them as well. We have the zombie villager, who isn't really that special. He just spawns additional phantoms when he spawns in, so you'll always have an influx of phantoms spawning in. Wither skeletons are, they're just wither skeletons. They're just terrifying as is. Strays have this cool helmet, which will apply a resistance buff to any nearby mobs that they affect. And this should actually have a bone mask texture, which is finished and is in the pack. But as I mentioned, 1.15 is slow, and CIT does not yet currently exist for Optifine, so you'll have to just deal with this kind of crappy iron helmet for the time being. But trust me, there is a texture. It is there. It just doesn't work yet. So yeah. We also have the Phantom. Phantoms are very phantom now. It's kind of a cool feature. I've always kind of disliked that phantoms are called phantoms, but they look like stingrays. Like, it's kind of dumb. So I've kind of taken a lot of inspiration here from the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings to basically have them just be a cloud of smoke with eyes. I think it's really cool. So if we have ourselves a phantom flying around during the Bloodmoon, he's going to look pretty sick. You'll just see a cloud of smoke flying about with some eyes. It makes it much more difficult to actually fight phantoms. You can see their eyes. It's kind of the same effect as when you have an invisibility spider. When you're playing on hard mode, and the occasional spider will have invisibility. But yeah, it looks really cool, I think. We also have the inverted Enderman, who is able to teleport players to himself, as opposed to him teleporting to players. And yeah, the reason why that's not happening right now is because I have a command block here, which is setting the Enderman score for myself back to 0 constantly. But if this wasn't toggled, he would eventually count up a clock, and I would be teleported to him. Now, every single mob that you see here has a view distance of 80 blocks, as opposed to their default 16 or 40 if it's a zombie. So every single one of these mobs can spot you from very far away, almost as far as they can spawn away from you. So you are going to be swarmed with mobs during a Bloodmoon. This is tough, trust me. I've played this now with friends a couple times. It is tough. We're playing it again on Saturday, which is in 2 days from now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they all cope with it, because it's very difficult. I've gone to a lot of effort to make this data pack perform properly. There were a lot of issues to start with in terms of kind of like lag and tick lag, and basically just the data pack killing performance, especially server side. It was kind of crappy, unfortunately. I have been working to improve the performance of the data packs recently, because I've been realizing a lot of the features that I wrote originally when these packs were first made, like 6 months ago, are very inefficient. So hopefully, if you had any issues with SBS v1.1 or a combination of my data packs in the past, that should definitely be better for you now. So hopefully this will be running really nicely. Now, in terms of the skins, obviously you can see they have quite a unique design style. They're all kind of like red and demonic with their red glowing eyes. We've got the Husk, who looks like a zombie, but he's on fire. He's supposed to just be like a zombie that's burning, basically. He's not supposed to be a husk in this relevance. This is actually using a combination of anim and custom entity models, which are both Optifine features, and of course all of the skins here are Optifine random entity skins, so you will definitely need to have Optifine installed if you want to make full use of this pack. The only problem with this really ever comes in is if you're playing on a server. It's kind of annoying making sure that everyone has the data pack enabled, especially if they can't get Optifine if they're on an Apple device or something similar, because Well, we know why. But basically, you need to have Optifine installed to get the full effect, and you also need to have the resource pack, which is, of course, SDR, in this case, 1.15.7. I'm sure by the time that you come to download this, it'll be 1.15.8, because I have another thing in the works right now. But yeah, basically, if you are using this on a server, make sure that everyone has the data pack resources on, and also make sure that they are the top priority on the selected resource packs. Otherwise, this may not work. So yeah, it's pretty snazzy. It's pretty cool. So all the mobs here are fast, strong, and can see you from really far away. Phantoms are invisible, terrifying, and also Endermen are awful. They teleport you to them. Like, come on, such a great concept. Whose idea was that? Oh, terrible. So yeah, the reason why that creeper is really far away is because creepers now have a new ability. Creepers will actually spontaneously explode if they've been within range of a player. And in addition to that, they also have an incredibly short fuse timer, which means that if a creeper is going to explode, it will almost always explode. A lot of you will know it's a strategy within Minecraft to, run up to a creeper, melee attack him, and knock him away, and his fuse will actually stop because he's out of range of you. That will never happen in the Bloodmoon. Creepers will always explode when they've been within range to trigger their own fuse. And if they've been within 10 blocks of a player, they will randomly explode sometime afterwards, which means that no one is safe. You can hide behind a wall, you can hide in your base, it may get burnt down, it may explode. There is no way of hiding. You'll have to kill those mobs before they can kill you, basically. So yeah, also for the zombie villager skins, you can see here, it's pretty universal. Every single zombie villager variant has been changed, so you're not going to have any whack zombie villagers spawning when you're using the pack. As you can see here, they all look pretty snazzy. They've all got their red eyes. Again, the emissive features for the red eyes will be added in the future, 100%, but for now they are unfortunately not working too well. So yeah, so finally, if you do want to end the Bloodmoon, again, you will have to use the function to get it... Do I not have strength? No, I don't. You will have to use the function to get the Bloodmoon to end properly. So all you need to do if you want to end it manually is type function, Scalibur, better sleeping, and scroll down to Bloodmoon end, and that will rush the Bloodmoon to the next moon phase correctly, toggle all the values that change the mob's effects and abilities and everything else, and eventually you'll get this cool animation for when they turn back to their normal states. Ta-da! It's great. I love it. It's working perfectly. This is working so much better than the original SBS. I'm really proud of it. The actual functions in terms of how the day-night cycle works is splendid. This definitely does work. I've used this myself. I've done a big test of making sure the random chance for the moon is correct. It does work as expected. All the mob skins do actually change every night. It uses a day calculation system to basically pick the current day of the week and then add to it to shift to the next moon phase as needed. It's actually very complex. I've learned a lot of stuff making this data pack, and I'm really proud of how it's turned out. So if you guys do enjoy this, please do download it. The data pack is in the links below. You will need to make sure you have Optifine and the resource pack enabled. Again, apologies that some of the features for Optifine are not finished just yet. So unfortunately, hopefully those will become available in the near future. But for now, this pack is kind of unfinished, and there's not really much I can do about that, unfortunately. But yeah, once Optifine is released and those features are working, I'll make another update video basically showing that those features are now working once again, so you guys can definitely get the full experience. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this update for SBS v2.1, the new Bloodmoon update. In terms of future update videos, I'm actually planning to release a v2.5 of SGT, which will be the last version of SGT, and also a v2.2 of SMC, which will be the final version of SMC as well. And those features will basically focus on improving performance issues and making use of a lot of the new skills that I've learned while making SBS over the past 3 months, because I have learned a lot of new skills doing this. I am really excited for the future of my data packs and a future project that I'm sure a lot of you know about by now. So yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed SBS v2.1. If you do encounter any bugs or issues, I'm sure there absolutely will be, because this data pack is massive. Please do let me know either in the comments of any video, this one, any data pack video, whatever it may be, and also join my Discord and feel free to join join my Discord and feel free to join the discussion as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy SBS v2.1. Take care, and bye-bye.